Welcome to another episode of the Electric Norwegian. I'm Mats. Today I was thinking, let's just go for a drive and kind of sum up the air in a way. It's wonderful now. It's 13 degrees negative, so it's cold, but it's kind of dry, not dry, but it's not, the air is pretty dry, so it's not too bad. We're just going to drive around, going through the ups and downs of the air. I had a quick note down of what I've driven this year, and well, oh no, it's going sideways. Oh my gosh, this is just the most wonderful drifting car. This, you can just, it goes out in this nice, easy to anticipate way. It's really sweet handling. I'm going to turn the traction control back on again. So, well, why do I rate some of these cars? That's not bad necessarily, but disappointment. Because unlike JM or other people, Haggerty and so on, I don't always put that much weight on family stuff or material quality, and sometimes might even seem that I don't appreciate the finer details of workmanship in a car. Like everybody praises Audi, for instance, or Porsche for, oh my god, the Taycan has such high quality or whatever, compared to, for instance, a Tesla. They get flack for this. And then I've driven the old cars. I sat in a Taycan on a few occasions this summer just to see, and yeah, okay, it's put together properly, but the leather didn't feel particularly impressive, and the space-wise, it's very, very, very cramped car in many ways, and it isn't particularly efficient, so it's not a very good EV. Like, okay, it drives good, give it that, it's a Porsche, so you know, but other than that, I don't know, man. But okay, we started off with a few Chinese cars, the JAC AJS4 or whatever it was called, the Chinese crossover, and it was, they've since then lowered the price. It started off at around 400,000 NOK or 40,000 euros. It's now lower than that, at least in Norway. I don't think it's sold anywhere else in Europe, but it's a kind of, goes to show it was a perfectly decent car. It had everything you needed to have. It had an okay sound system. It drove all right. The range was supposed to be over 400 kilometers. I didn't think I achieved that, but it was on a winter's day. It was just okay. There was nothing there that stuck out. And like, for instance, in the Nissan Ariya, which I drove, I think it was last year, that was also in many ways an okay car. There was nothing spectacular about it, but it had I liked the interior of it. It was quiet, so it was well built and very, very well insulated for its class and its price. So it had those things that stuck out, and it looks, some might say it looks bland, but with the right colors, the Nissan Ariya looks really cool and kind of badass in a way. The Yacht didn't. It was just perfectly. It was a bit boring, a bit like that Toyota in front there. Another car that wasn't really impressive was the BMW iX1. I know a lot of people, journalists, say, oh, it's fun to drive, you can drift it along and all that, but okay, how often do you drift along in a car? You don't. And the problem for me with the car was, okay, the seats were good, the interior was alright, it felt a bit cheap, but it was alright. The efficiency and the tech, BMW has always been very, very good at their electric drivetrains. most of the time anyway. It's a small crossover and it's priced way too high. So it's priced to go up against the Model Ys. You should be very, very good indeed to go up against the Model Y, and it isn't. So it's just too expensive for what it was, and didn't really deliver on space or anything else either, because yeah, that was a disappointment. Of course, some people might say, oh, but the leather is from Holy Cow somewhere, and it says BMW, so it has to be fantastic. And no, yes, but then they have to stop pricing everything so high. That's the problem. Same problem with the EQE. It's a bit too cramped, the interior isn't that impressive, and it's priced at 100,000 euros. No, you go and buy yourself a Model S for that, or maybe a BYHan, or maybe not, or something else. Impressed me. The BYHan absolutely did. It's very nice to drive. Plenty of traditional luxury with wood, and just felt upmarket and good. Range was good, power was decent. Some people have kind of criticized it for being, I don't know, doing things a bit strangely, and that the bings and bonks in it are a bit bad. Yes, but that's a cultural Chinese thing, and I think they're getting better at it. In test of the BYD Dolphin, and that they've clearly toned down the binging and bonging at you, and that's good. But anyway, the BYHan, for the price, at least in Norway, it comes in at around, I think it was 60,000 euros, and that's not cheap by all means, but it gives a lot of luxury for the money, particularly if you compare with Germans, which add a value on everything, so things just go up in price if you want something particularly nice. So you have to add at least 15-20% of the price to get something equivalent of the BYHan. It's not perfect by any means, but it was one of the really high points of the year. Really thoroughly enjoyed that car. The MG4 was as well. Yes, I complained that the screen was a little bit too small for what it tried to do, and it turns out it had a few nifty little shortcuts, but it was just a great little car, not too expensive, but it did everything well. And unlike the French, which is the E205 and all of that stuff, that's just struggles with so much, and the range has been too bad, too low, and all of that stuff. Well, the MG4 was just a brilliant little thing. It really was. And now it has come in an X-Power version as well, which is apparently quick and funny. We have to try that at some point. I must say, this old Model S doesn't really feel, it feels rear-wheel drive if you want to, but it's so stable and nice on this non-conk tires. They're really, really good. Another high point of the year was the Plaids, in plural, but both the S and the X. They were finally got a makeover from this old thing they've been running for almost 10 years at the time. The interior quality is now very good, not perfect and not in any way flawless, but very good indeed. The power is of course just absurd. Even in the long range version, they're quite powerful. But the Plaid is just at a different level. I saw this video of a Taycan owner who said the interior of the new Model S's were now very good indeed. It's quite up there with the Taycan, but they're much more spacious and gives you a lot more for your money. But the power level at the cost of what you get for, it's just absurd. Nothing else comes close even. It's a well done Tesla. What else have we driven? The MG6, the cheapo station wagon. It was an okay drive. It was a bit bland and boring, but it did nothing wrong. Like I also said in the video, it's a bit like my old Mazda 6 wagon. It was it was decent enough, and it did its job, and it was a car that you sort of, if you like that kind of thing, you really should try it. It's more spacious than your average small crossover, and it's just better to drive because it's a saloon, basically. So you sit lower and you have more contact with the road and all of that jazz, all that stuff. So it's definitely worth a try. What else have we driven this year? We driven a new 3. That's the surprise of the year. I always liked the Model 3, but it's had its problems, namely noise and harshness in the suspension. Now the new one solves all of that. It drives wonderfully. It's relatively quiet. The refinement inside in the materials and the suspension is just fabulastic. It really, really is wonderful. And they're being more mature now. There's less of the hoo-ha. They even lowered the top speed just in the name of efficiency, as I say. We don't really need that. If you want to drive that fast, get the performance version. Everybody else, I mean, you can define with 120 miles an hour, 200 kilometers an hour. The only ones are complaining of the Germans, but yeah, okay, fine. Dude, who cares? Even the Germans don't drive that fast that often. I know, I've been there several times. They're just mostly queuing, after all. So the new Model 3 definitely deserves best buy. It starts off at around 40,000 euros. It has a consistently good range, and it charges like a boss, and it just goes like a stabbed rat. And it's fun, and it's even better now than it ever needed. I think it's even better than it needed to be in the lower range, because it's relatively affordable, and you get all this tech and all this stuff for standard. It's just astonishing. No one else gives you that much. So another saloon I drove this year, the Hyundai Ioniq 6. The Ioniq 6 it's based on the 5, so we already knew it was good, and it is good. It's very good. It's quiet, it's refined, it's relatively efficient. It's not the space. I mean, it's a bit individuality. The spaciousness goes to the back seat. It's a huge, whooping, great space for passengers and drivers in that car. The seats are good, as they've been in Hyundai for years. It's the screens work decently okay. It's not the best infotainment system, but it's definitely not the worst. There's a frunk there. It's tiny, but you know, it's there. So it's a good car. The trunk is a little bit too small, and the opening is a little bit too small. If you compare it with, for instance, a Model 3, okay, the axle, the length between the axles in the Model 3 is shorter, so you have less of a you have a problem with the you have less rear leg room in the Model 3, but it's just a more spacious car overall. It's just a more spacious car overall, and it's also more efficient than the Ioniq 6. I don't think the Ioniq 6 is supposed to deliver on efficiency. It didn't. It's a good car and it's an efficient car. But it depends on what you want. If you want a comfortable car to drive long distances in that charges very quickly and you don't need a lot of luggage space, just go ahead and buy it. And then you have the Hyundai Kona. It's a big improvement over the previous Kona. It really is, because it's a bigger car, so you have more space. You actually have space in the back seat. You never really had that in the old one, unless it were for children. The range is good. It's always been good in the Kona. It's really always been very, very good indeed. Oh, I have a warning. on their suspension. Probably too cold, so it's probably frozen. That's fine. It'll freeze up again or thaw up again at some point anyway. It looks really cool. It's good to ride. It's a decent sound system. It has physical buttons for what it needs, namely the climate controls. And I enjoyed my time in the Kona. There's not too much wrong to say about it because it doesn't do very much wrong. You can say it's a bit boring, but it's like that ID4. Well, I would actually buy the Kona instead because I just liked it better. I've forgotten something now. Oh yes, another disappointment was the Nissan Townstar or Renault Kangoo. They're both the vans, but they're basically the same car with just different names. The range was a bit too short, only 120 kilometers roughly, maybe a bit more on a quiet summer's day, low Norwegian speed limits. But just the noise levels when you get above 50, 60 miles or about 100 kilometers, get out on the motorway, it's just too noisy in there. Which is sad because the rest of the car is okay. It's well appointed, you sit, the seats are decent, and it's a decent car for a van. And it just should have been better sound insulated. I drive a panel van at work every day, and that's just quieter, actually quite okay on the motorway. Of course, if you don't do motorway miles, if you run a small business or a carpenter or something and you just need a small panel van to move your stuff around, it's brilliant, and you can charge it at home, and you can... No, you can't charge it at home in Norway without a transformer, because it only runs 400 volt grids. We don't have those in Norway. Well, we do, but traditionally we have it. So most places still needs that transformer, which is something Renault has been struggling with since the Zoe came out in 2014 or something. That's 10 years ago. They should have fixed that by now, and that's just shame on you. We could do better. But anyway, it's okay. I just wish it was better because it's been struggling. Nissan have been struggling with those points of noise and stuff for at least 20 years now. They just never bothered to improve it. Workers deserve comfort too, after all. So, how do we sum up this year? Well, things are improving. The range of cars now are a lot better than they were just 5 years ago. The average range now, I think, is about 200 miles or 300 kilometers. And then you have someone on the top pulling that up, and then there's some on the bottom. Not really that many anymore, pulling it a little bit down, but most of the time it's around there. And if you see, you have the Model 3, for instance, the standard range does easily 350, probably closer to 400 kilometers on a summer day on the motorway, if you don't drive too fast. And that's good for a car at around 40,000 euros. And on the top end, the long ranges does even much more than that. It's just amazing. And we're still talking a car for less than 50,000 euros that can do closer to 600 kilometers in some occasions. And very few other cars can match that. Maybe except for an EQS or something, and that's a car costing 3 or 4 times the price. I was supposed to drive the EQS SUVs this year. I never got around to it because of timing issues. I was also supposed to drive the new Honda, but I don't know if I don't want to slaughter a car, but it feels like it's made for... I don't know what it's made for. It's just not efficient enough and not good enough and not... Yeah, I'm sad, really, because it could have been so much better. I've also driven the Hyundai, no, the Kia EV9. Brilliant, wonderful car. A bit too big in some ways, at least for Europe. But you know, if you want one, you want. Is it worth all the money? It's up to for you to decide. But it's definitely a good proposition. But that video hasn't come out yet. It's gonna drop it after New Year's, I think. And I think that's it really. What have you driven this year? Speaking of efficiency, it's 19 degrees negative here, and I'm running sub 300 watt hours now. It's a 10-year-old car with one big powerful engine at the back. It's an induction engine, so it's not a permanent magnet one, but still. It's high. It's hovering around 300, but still, it's just some modern cars can't even do this. Not in these cold temperatures. Well, it seems sadly that the ending of the video wasn't recorded or can't. And I also realized going through the pictures of this year that I forgot to mention the Ligier Muli electric moped car. Brilliant fun little thing. And also the used Model X I tested, which is still a good car. I have also my own S recently, as you know. What else did we do? There's a few other cars as well I forgot to mention, and I'm sorry about that. But I do appreciate you watching. Either you've been watching a long time or are a newcomer. I see the channel growing slowly, and it's always fun and it's inspiring. It's not always. I try to make a video a week. That's not always possible because this is a side show. I have a full-time job, and not always you can get stuff to fit in your schedule. This is mostly a weekend project for me. I hope you enjoyed this summary of the year that's now coming to an end, and I wish you and yours Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the other one. Take care. Goodbye.